All right, this one makes me really angry. Hey guys, welcome to another episode, another video. We are going through the Bible. We just covered how Sodom and Gomorrah were just destroyed. Lot and his now daughters, because his wife died, his two daughters have fled to Zoar, but instead of Zoar, now he's fled to the hills because he's also scared of Zoar. And originally, the angels told him to flee to the hills. And he said, let's go to Zoar. And they were like, okay, go to Zoar. But now he's in the hills away from Zoar because he's scared of Zoar too. And my thinking is, I wonder if it's because Lot is probably known for have been living in Sodom and Gomorrah. And he's fleeing from Sodom and Gomorrah. It's just him and his daughters. What happened? There probably would be some fear to go to another city or another town that knows about this mass destruction that happened, and him and his family just moseying on up in there. That'd be a little scary. People would probably be a little skeptical, or people would probably be like, maybe there's, I don't know, who knows what they would have thought. Maybe there's a curse upon him because he was associated with it, because it was such a crazy thing that happened, that sulfur and fire came from the heavens on Sodom and Gomorrah. So that's my thinking. I could be totally wrong, but from what I can tell in this passage, it doesn't really explain why he was scared. But I mean, honestly, if I were Lot, maybe I would be scared too, to go to another small town that probably everybody knows everybody, and then they know what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah, and they're like, okay, we don't trust you. All right, so this is on the daughters, though. We're not talking about Lot anymore. We're talking about the daughters, because the two daughters absolutely made a mess of this entire situation. So I don't know if you've watched my last videos, but in my last videos, there was a moment when the angels were about to take Lot and his family, and they were asking, is there anybody else that you want to take with you, any other family members or anything? So Lot goes to his son-in-laws. So apparently the two daughters had husbands, but they laughed at him and didn't believe Lot was telling the truth, and so they were destroyed in Sodom and Gomorrah along with it. So now the two daughters have lost their husbands. As we can tell, they don't have any children currently. And so they're not living in Zoar, so they're not getting any other men in the area, and so they just live with their dad currently. So their thinking is, we need a bloodline to continue. We need to have babies to continue the bloodline. So what do? They decide that their father Lot is the answer to their problems. Boy, oh boy, this is so bad. They get him drinking. The oldest daughter says, I'm going to basically have sex with him first. She ends up conceiving. Then her sister the next day or next night is like, all right, it's your turn. They get him drunk again. Lot doesn't know what's going on, doesn't know anything about this stuff. He's too drunk to know. And she goes into him too. And so the first daughter conceives, has a son, calls his name Moab. And the second daughter calls her son Ben-Ami. And as we continue through the Bible, you're going to see that the Moabites and the Ammonites are going to pop up in the Bible. And this is the starting of it. Moab and Ben-Ami. That is the lineup for the Moabites and the Ammonites. Funny enough, I've been talking a lot about names because I've been really interested in how names are associated with what's going on, and either they called them because of something that they already did or was associated with them, or sometimes God tells them, this is the name I have for this person, and it's either a promise of what's going to happen or something like that. Just like Abram, what God told him, he's changing his name to Abraham from excellent father, I believe, or father to father of many, essentially, and then Sarai to Sarah, and Sarai means princess or my lady, basically, and Sarah means princess of kings or princess of many or nations or something like that. I'd have to go back and look at my notes to give you a precise names, but that's essentially what it is. So names back then were really highly associated with what was going on. And funny enough, Moab means from my father. Well, yeah, that is. And Ben-Ami means son of my people. So both of these girls are like, well, this is what happened. And I can't imagine, it doesn't talk about how Lot reacts, how this happens, if it's kept a secret from him. He has to have known. But I can't imagine what happened in that family after that happened. But let me go ahead and read this passage. And it's so interesting that the Bible talks about these things, but it also is part of the lineage and generations, and it's just part of the history of what happened, because Moab and Ben-Ami are the fathers, basically, of the Moabites and the Ammonites, and that's the history of it. So it's very interesting how the Bible doesn't cover up these things. I mean, if I were writing a book on either my heritage or, what happened, maybe I would try to cover up some of these scandals that happened. But that's not what the Bible does, because there are obviously lessons we can learn from this. About, even though God is so gracious to bring them out of it, Lot keeps being full of fear of different situations. The daughters are in fear of not ever having husbands. It's all this consistent theme of, as soon as they get out of trusting God and trusting his plan for their lives and trusting what he has already done for them and what he's going to do for them, and feeding into that fear, that's when all these crazy things happen. If you guys go back into my last videos, there are several things that Abraham does out of fear. Several things that obviously now Lot and now his daughters have done out of fear. And Sarah has done out of fear. All these things have been this fearful part of us. And the Bible talks about how fear is not of God. We should have a righteous fear of God. But the fear that we're talking about here is a fear of, that is, honestly, I believe it's a fear from Satan, really, that drives us to think not as clearly and to try to trust in our own judgments and think that we can make the right choices. So we're in Genesis 19, verse 30 through 38. Now Lot went up out of Zoar and lived in the hills with his 2 daughters, for he was afraid to live in Zoar. So he lived in a cave with his 2 daughters. Like, that's crazy. So now he's living in a cave with his 2 daughters too. Like, he's not just, normal house or whatever. He's living in a cave. And the firstborn said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is not a man on earth to come in to us after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve offspring from our father." So they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father. He did not know when she lay down or when she arose. The next day the firstborn said to the younger, "Behold, I lay last night with my father. Let us make him drink wine tonight also. Then you go in and lie with him, that we may preserve offspring for our father." So they made their father drink wine that night also. And the younger arose and lay with him, and he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. Thus both the daughters of Lot became pregnant by their father. The firstborn bore a son and called his name Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. The younger also bore a son and called his name Ben-Ami. He is the father of the Ammonites to this day. That's pretty clear. I wonder if if the reason these girls are also, I don't know how long it took them to decide or how long they were living in the caves or what it was, but obviously there was fear of not having a lineage and not finding any men. Their dad's old, he's gonna die, they're gonna die, whatever. And I wonder though if there's this sense of, because they came from Sodom and Gomorrah, Sodom and Gomorrah, we obviously know, was filled with nothing but just wickedness in that land. And so I don't know how old the girls were when Lot had moved, or if they were born into those cities or not. And I'm not making excuses for them, but I'm just trying to think through, okay, why would they even think that this is remotely okay? Or why would they even do this in desperation? Why not just pack up, travel to Zoar, and try to, I don't know, prostitute yourself or something, which is not a good idea either. But it's interesting how they just turned to their father and said, well, we'll just do this. It's fine. It's for the good. And I wonder if it's because they grew up in Sodom and Gomorrah. They were inundated with that kind of wickedness. And wickedness, once you have sin just become a normalcy or certain immoral attitudes and it being just natural to be immoral, I wonder if it wasn't looked upon as that evil or wicked at all. Maybe they didn't even think there was anything wrong with it. They were like, well, desperate times, desperate measures, it's fine. It's for the good of everybody. It's for the good of our Father. So I don't know. That's just some speculation on my part, but it is interesting to know just like where they came from and how that could be connected to why they made that choice in the end. Ultimately, it still boils down to not trusting the Lord and not calling upon Him for guidance and for direction in what to do. And fear that because Lot took them to a secluded place, and fear of the girls because they're like, well, we're never going to have any men. So yeah, very interesting stuff, guys. Well, I hope you semi enjoyed this section, story, telling. I hope I didn't bore you too much, but I'm also an external processor, so sometimes I'm like working through it in my head as I talk. So yes, anyway, would love your input, guys. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and comment. I would love to hear what you guys, if you're learning anything, or if you have some really cool information, or some historical things that happened during that time. That would be just so cool because we're all learning, we're all growing together. I'm still learning all of this, guys. I'm still learning about, the meaning of all these names and what happened and even the religion or the thinking during that time. It's also interesting. So there's never like, I could go back through Genesis again and learn so much more. There's just so much in it. It's amazing. Anyway, love you guys. I hope you have a great weekend, and I will see you next time.